Okay, and we are back with APIM Hotrod. Hi, Stefan. How are you?
Hi, Massimo. Fine, and you?
Very good. Summer is coming, and
Yeah,
I see also over there sun is shining, so
yeah,
I'm
indeed.
extremely happy.
I'm all red already, you see. So if I take the sun 10 minutes, then I'm actually red brown, so already colored. So it's anyway a good news. Yeah,
That's good. That's the best season of the year.
yeah,
Okay, let's
indeed.
bring back the our polar star, your wonderful map, Stefan. Last time we talked about one topic I love, maybe the one I love the most, the scaling in cloud as general. In
Yeah,
this case,
indeed.
we talk about scaling and API management, of course. And today we will go to another, I believe, important topic, which is monitoring. What do you
Indeed.
think?
Well, monitoring, that's the necessary evil, I would say. So no, it's just that it's not always the most sexy topic, you see, because sometimes can be a bit boring, but that's indeed absolutely required. If you want to see to keep a system under control, that's something that you have to work on for sure, right? So that's
Yeah,
unavoidable.
definitely. And when you go to production, you want to understand how your solution is performing, also from a
Yep,
security point of view,
indeed.
which kind of operation you are calling, and especially also during the bug, right? I get an error? Is this error coming from my gateway?
Yeah,
Is this
indeed.
error coming from the backend where the what's going wrong?
Yeah,
So
indeed. That's indeed really one key topic because indeed, if you don't have an API gateway, then of course you have a client consuming a backend. Then you know that if the client receives an error, it can only be from the backend, or I don't know, network is down or whatever. But typically here you add an extra layer indeed, and then sometimes you wonder indeed where does it come from. So that becomes even more important to.
yeah,
And actually, also the goal is that you have a centralized place as well. So that's also something that's nice, brought by the API gateway. Then you have a central location, let's say, to monitor compared to having all the backends independent. So here at least you have something that centralizes all the calls. So that's always interesting.
And definitely, when you are using a central solution like an API management, you delegate across cutting concern to the gateway. Can be a security, so the gateway is a security broker.
Yeah,
Can be monitoring, so you don't have to monitor in a different ways. Everything you just delegate to this
yeah,
point. I mean, to this software layer, central software layer in this case.
indeed.
Okay, so yeah, let's look around a little bit on this map here.
Hmm.
So let's say that when we monitor something, one of the first things that I always ask to myself is like, what are the golden signals that I should look at? And
Yeah,
those signals can be here like seen as a matrix or trace in this case, sorry, a register in this case like matrix, can be like logs, can be traces during the debug, and all of these different kind of signals will be collected by the gateway, by our API management gateway, and then stored some or on a single big data repository like Log Analytics,
yeah,
for example. Or in the future, you might store wherever you want, or you can also store something externally using policies like Log2Event Hub, or you by using the trace policy
yeah,
is another things that we could add here on debugging or on policy. Using the trace policy, you can also inject information into the log analytics logs.
yeah, yeah,
But generally speaking, to facilitate the diving into those golden metrics um, that we always monitor, I just create a little page here on this GitHub where we can have some example. It's always important, at least to follow up this very known golden matrix, which is
yeah,
traffic, which is latency, errors, and saturations. This is from instance point of view, right?
yeah,
So when
indeed.
I have an API management instance, those kind of things, these signals are collected by the platform. So Azure automatically record these things. So I don't have to
Yeah,
do anything else except enable, for example, the diagnostic logs to catch this kind of things.
And identify them. And indeed, and that's, let's say, this work you have to do with whatever service you are starting with in Azure, right? So if you start to adopt or to use a new service, indeed, trying to identify what are the key metrics for that service, and that will actually help you build your monitoring story. And so, of course, same applies to APIM. And indeed, here we have four, let's say, metrics. And I think you have something. It's a bit small, but you have something to show us, right?
Yeah. Before going to this, then just to complete this step, so there is the signals from platform or infrastructure point of view, so API management instance. But another very important thing that we have to ask to ourselves: what are the information, the signals that we want to collect also from application point of view?
Yeah,
a classic example. We want to understand what are the critical APIs, or the critical operations. So when we have all of these metrics, but then these metrics, we put those metrics or the signals into a dashboard or different dashboard. And not all the APIs are the same. Not all the operations are the same. Suppose that you have an e-commerce. I suppose that the login operation or place an order operation is way more important than some other detail. So this is very important during the collection requirement, during your monitoring design, to just put your focus and collect this.
Here actually it's monitoring in terms of, okay, see if the infrastructure is going well, but also monitoring indeed the usage of your APIs, understanding the usage of your APIs, indeed, see what's the most consumed. I don't know, indeed, API operation, maybe the ones indeed that throw errors, but that might not come from the API gateway itself, but from the back end. So indeed, that's let's say all these things that you want to know basically when you monitor, and also then see usage. So meaning that sometimes everything goes well, but you still want to get insights about how your APIs are consumed, basically. Right?
Yeah, and then it's always better as everything in monitoring, right? You start at a high level, and then you have to. It's better to just dive into and break it down by different and split the analysis by different, let's say, dimension. And the example here, let me open this in a new. Opening a new
tab.
Open it. Okay, it's over there. Yes, thank you. So this is an example of latency. It's one of the gold signals. Very important, but it's extremely important to split that the latency and every matrix in between the successful request and, for example, the failed request. You don't want that one single or a small amount of slow request completely, let's say, pollute your overall average latency. And here in this example, I have the API that are hidden, but you can already split and follow up if you want per single APIs, because not all the APIs perform the same type of operation. So a get that is cached might have a completely, and for sure will have completely different latency compared to some post or some complex transaction and things like this.
Of course, I think it's important, and indeed to be able to distinguish, and because of course failures always then typically involve exceptions, and exceptions are known to be slow, right? So then indeed a failing API is often not fast. So it might fail fast, but it will still take time. The effect
especially
will still
timeout and
increase the
all these kind of
latency.
things they bring you. They really
Yeah.
And I also like to put always the latency close to the success rate. So in this case, I know that I have an average around, suppose less than 1 second for a rate that is around 15,000 per call per minute. So I have this kind of things. And
indeed.
also over there, as I was saying, this is the part of here. We are looking at the latency, but also the part of the traffic. Here, the traffic is also split for success and failed as well. So in this example, I know that in this case, I have every minute, I have 150 errors. In this case, are empty, it means that I receive. This
Yeah.
is my personal, let's say,
Environment.
yeah,
Or
not environment, just like a way to say, actually, this backend, it means that I have a 400, for example, from the backend.
okay.
So
Yeah. Okay.
every minute I have 150 errors. You might say, okay, Massimo, there's something wrong, but there are a different level of validation. The first validation in the API gateway. So like for authentication, a certain level of authorization, but there is an additional level of authorization in the backend. So these 100 per minutes are all 401, 403,
Yeah,
or things like
yeah,
this that are
which is
happening.
indeed not so much a big deal. But indeed, and actually, you mentioned one typical error code, which is 400 and bad request. That's also indeed, if you catch this, then it might also show how, let's say, consumers might just consume your APIs in the wrong way. And for instance, I already had some, let's say, with some other customers, I already had some logic apps from customers that were consuming, let's say an API, but in a bad way. So it was always a 400, but they actually they retried a bit like in the loop, you see. So somehow, if you did not have also, if you didn't pay attention, they could actually abuse a little bit your service just by mistake, not even intentionally, right? Because
Yeah, that's
actually
why.
they kept, yeah,
Yeah,
kept
yeah.
retrying.
And also that's something that we said in one of our episode. No matter what, always add some throttling,
Yeah,
whatever
rate
rules is
limiting. Yeah,
there. Throttling is
indeed.
something that
Yeah,
it might save your days. That's for sure in consumption in that case. And
indeed.
here you can have also, in this case, operational found. It's someone that is trying
Yeah.
to misuse your
Yeah.
solution. There is always a good user, and
Yeah, or you
the
might have done a breaking change if you did not properly version your APIs, right? And then you rename an operation. I don't know. It could also come from your end, right? That actually someone was actually consuming your APIs the right way, and then you make a mistake, and then all of a sudden the operation does not exist anymore, and then it would lead to 404. Yeah. In any case, all these examples show that it's really important to indeed have a look at this. And I would also say already at the stage of development, right? Don't wait production. Try to already see a bit, make sure to prepare your monitoring stories, of course, before production, but also to watch really the dashboards and see a bit if you thought about all these scenarios, let's say, or
yeah.
most of them. Yeah.
A lot of workbook and dashboard and things like this are
Yep.
coming. You can find online. They're also coming up from the API management service. And actually, one of the things I don't know if it's here, usage analytics is part of here. So I bring out this article where the classic analytics that were calculated in the background, so the amount of APIs, the operations, and all of these kind of things. The analytics per se that you can see here, maybe super small, but the
Yeah.
analytics tab will go away,
Yeah.
and the analytics will be based on Azure Monitor and brought up using the Insights tab. So
Yeah.
everything will be log analytics or Azure Monitor based in the
Yeah.
future.
I will have to update the map.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
you know what is the funny things that these the new analytics, as you can see here in this article. So you have a new dashboard that is in form of workbook. This dashboard is available in the Insights tab, but in the basic V2, for example, is where I check, but I also check on the no, on
Standard.
the standard, yes.
Yeah.
I don't see yet these insights coming up, even if the diagnostic settings are linked. So it's something that
But you
I'm sure.
found that on other tools, right, Massimo? You found
No,
it
I
in the
didn't. I only
ah,
check on basic V2 and
only
standard
check.
V2.
Okay, okay. Because otherwise it could still be a trick, yeah, dirty trick. Because to be honest, I've not checked myself. So, but maybe if it is available for, let's say, premium, you might just take the part of the URL paste it next to
And you
your
get it back.
V2
Yeah,
instance just to see a bit. Maybe they just forgot something in the portal, but it might be available. Yeah, I don't know. I've not checked this one. It's pretty
yeah.
new.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
they are rolling it out progressively
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah, to be
possibly.
seen.
Yeah. So
But
the dog is
one thing to stay more, and then we will go and explore other part of the of the of the map of your mind map is what I like the most. That I mean, I normally spend more time is about the errors part because as we were saying before, I we are in the middle and we exchange messages from our application all the way to backend. So I might receive 400 and 500. I hope not 500 from the backend. But it's also important to understand the kind of errors that are generated by our gateway, because then is maybe a policy that is misconfigured, something is going wrong with the scale of the gateway and things like this.
could be
So
the
here there
network as
are,
well, like the backend is not reachable anymore. You see, it could be indeed plenty of stuff. Yeah, yeah,
and it's all about, in this case, we are talking about APIs. So for example, in the case of HTTP APIs, right, REST API, if you want, or Web API, are all about HTTP methods. So you do and status code. But then there are cases when something goes wrong in the gateway. You have cases where you have the response code equal to 0.
yeah,
And you have something that backend responds 200, our gateway responds 200, but you have something like is a successful request equal to false. So something is wrong in the gateway, and you can with this kind of that's where I want to put my focus, because I want the software or the infrastructure where we are responsible that works perfectly, or I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
as best
Yeah,
as
or at least,
possible.
yeah, and then you can identify whether it comes from the gateway itself or from the backend, because indeed, as you said, we have an extra layer introduced by the gateway. And so, indeed, when there is an exception happening, you might suspect the backend, you might suspect the gateway. So it's quite important to make it clear, indeed, from the start, what is gateway-related issues and what is backend, so that at least you can be more efficient in the troubleshooting or fixing the problem, basically.
Exactly. So in this example, like here, there are a few examples of possible errors. One can be backend connection failure.
Yeah,
You might have these things in the case of it's not problem. You might have a huge
yeah,
amount of these kind of things. Client
yeah,
connection failure, which in this example are the biggest one, is because you suppose that you have a load test and then you drop all the connection before receiving the answer
mm,
from the gateway, and you will have this client that say, give me something, and then goes away. And here
yeah,
is another example. Okay,
yeah,
expression value failure. Here is like it's a
indeed.
policy that it might be wrong, so you can understand and go and find this
Yeah.
and troubleshoot
And
this.
backing connection failure could also just be because of firewall in between, right? Some
Yeah,
organizations put firewalls for everything, and so you might have just a flow that is not opened between a given API gateway and its backend, and so of course, then in that case, it would never fly. Yeah,
and another things that I advise, and then we move on at customer, is also to drill down a little bit and divide and create a graph like this following this. I'm showing all the client connection failures,
mhm,
but I also want to understand which part of the policy is
yeah,
creating this. So in this
yeah,
case, is the forward request part of the backend, or
mhm,
the inbound part, or the transfer response in the inbound. That
yeah,
might be also helpful when you troubleshoot these kind of things with Microsoft in case of more complex kind of problems.
yeah, indeed. And also very important, respect the HTTP conventions. So as you mentioned, the error codes like 400, and so make sure to always follow this for the backend developers, and indeed try to avoid as much as possible 500 internal server error, because that is never helpful.
Yeah,
So you'd better than in the backend side catch, let's say, any exception, because typically 500 means that you didn't catch an exception, right, in the code itself, and so then that's the automatic exception, auto-generated exception. Always try to catch it, and ideally to throw new exceptions that are application specific, so that at least you have something that is more understandable, let's say, in case shit hits the fan, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I have
So
to say something, tell you something, Stefan. When I see a 500 coming from the back end, I get nervous.
yeah, I don't like it either. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
good, good.
one last thing here I wanted to add here about saturation. And the saturation, it gives us the sense how much are we consuming the resources that we have on our gateway. And normally I was using the classic capacity matrix here, the standard matrix that we have out of
Yeah,
the box
yeah,
is very useful. Is when we talked last week about scaling, capacity is the one that is normally most checked,
yeah.
monitored for scaling.
Mhm,
And with the new API management V2 tier, the capacity matrix, it seems is not there anymore, will not be there anymore.
mhm.
So another things that can be interesting to understand the saturation for the new tiers is the this platform health that is in the diagnose and solve problems menu in Azure portal. And I like this because I can see, yes, my capacity, but in this case is split by role, by web role. So in
Mhm.
this case, I have 4 web roles, so it
Yeah,
means 2 instance in this case of a premium Azure API
yeah,
management. And I can see that in this case, yeah, just is used 20%, so I
yeah.
don't need at all 2 premium instance.
No,
It's better to go
yeah,
back to a
that's
single.
indeed also a good point because sometimes we overscale. So by not using auto scaling, but just by provisioning way too much compute, and indeed, and then that's also a good way to see, okay, what am I really using? And that's a good. It's always good to look at this capacity, or no, this capacity by rule metric. Let's say at peak times, because if indeed you see that even at peak times you actually only consume 20%,
Yeah.
then it could be a
Sorry, I
signal
beg
to
you.
just lower the bar a bit and pay
Yeah,
less.
exactly.
Yeah,
Okay,
perfect.
we are almost at the end of the episode, but I would like to just add one thing. Okay, because we just as everything we could go more into the details, but
Yeah,
we will see in the coming weeks also to go more in details on some topics. There is one of the things that I would like to mention here is about, of course, for application monitoring and tracing, there is application insights. We can decide to transfer to application insights, which is for me a view on top of log analytics. That's the way I see application insights. We can send headers, we can send all the details, traces, we can send also track the request and response body, all of these kind of things. But one of the things that because we were looking about and we discussed about those platform logs.
yeah,
So
yeah.
when I have API management, I have platform logs. But one of the things to bring a little lessons from the field, when I'm using Azure Front Door in front of API management, I would like to correlate the logs
Mhm,
of
mhm.
Azure Front Door and the logs of API management. So I
Yeah,
want to know which log of the front door correspond to the API management part.
yeah,
So from
yeah.
application point of view, I can send all of my end-to-end correlation. That is
Mhm,
from applicative point of view, application point of view.
mhm,
But from
mhm.
platform logs
Infra,
point of
yeah,
view,
yeah.
I don't have this correlation.
No.
And one of the things that you can do to fix this, you can use the trace policy in API management to inject the front door transaction ID in the logs of API
Yeah.
management. So then you'll be able to
Can
use,
correlate.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to
That's
use.
indeed a good tip because indeed it's two separate services with their own, let's say, diagnostic logs. So indeed they don't know each other. So it's actually good to inject this kind of things. Maybe also one word on the even hub and so on, because some people might wonder, okay, why the hell would I send diagnostic logs to even hub? You see, it's on the no, it's on the more on the left side. Diagnostic logs. You see,
You
you
want,
can
okay,
actually,
which
yeah,
logs?
put that to log analytics, which is a usual suspect. But also, why would you do that in even hub? It's something that I see often in at least large corporations is that they typically also use non-Azure tools to for monitoring, like Splunk, for instance, right? And so typically you can put logs into EvenHub Event Hub is, of course, can absorb that amount of logs, but then it's set at disposal of the third-party tools, which can actually ingest those logs from Event Hub, right? So that's one of the use cases that you see. Same for security logs. You typically have solutions like QRadar and so on, which are able to pull logs from Event Hubs. Right? So that's why you might use Event Hub. That's typically not for just Azure itself, right?
Yeah, it's in general, this event hub is an integration point for, in this case, monitoring, but it's also an integration point sometimes for sending out whatever information you might have.
Indeed. And it's really well suited for telemetry. And of course, diagnostic logs, it's just pure telemetry, a lot of a lot of operations, let's say, at massive scale. Yeah, so, Indeed.
Okay, so we are at the end of our episode. I would like to remember everybody that we just have some weeks ago published our website, APIM Hotrod.cloud. Please check it out. This is where we publish our video, and also we open our discussion to anybody else that wants to join our conversation and discuss a topic they love. So.
Indeed.
Thank you for joining this call. And Stefan, you will be on holiday for the coming weeks, right?
Well, not weeks, but just 1 week. Yeah, so like
just only
short trip. Yeah, nothing exceptional, but still will enjoy.
But no worries, we will be back before you are coming back from holidays.
Yeah, no problem. Indeed.
Okay.
Good. So, thanks, Massimo. Thanks for all the ones who watched the episode, and then talk to you soon. Right.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you.